there, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Danny. Back in August of 2021, we had the pleasure of interviewing David Howard Thornton, better known as Art the Clown, from the movie Terrifier. This was before Terrifier had even started its climb of what has become a very large mountain of fame, adoration, and pure enjoyment from horror fans everywhere. We're reposting this interview because David is one of the most enjoyable, sweet human beings on the planet. With Terrifier 2 and now Terrifier 3 out, David is swamped with interviews and appearances, media blitzing, and hopefully enjoying every moment of it as it is well deserved. We had such a wonderful time talking to David, and a couple of the highlights of this interview, talking about who is Art the Clown, or what is he, body acting and miming, practical effects, which the Terrifier movies are just chock full of, his experience with the cast and crew on set, him scaring himself in Art the Clown makeup, his life in New York. We talked about panhandlers a little bit. We got a little into politics. We learned that he's related to George Washington. And because this was an interview in 2021, we talked a little bit about filming during lockdown and how that affected his convention circuits and how it kind of affected everything kind of going around about it. And because Terrifier 3 is out now, and I know we might not get a chance to talk to David again about Terrifier 3 because he's so big now, we just wanted to bring this interview back up to let you all enjoy it again. And if you haven't heard it before, enjoy it for the first time.
Hey, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
No thing, huh?
No, I'm not going to do that bit in interviews. Come on. I'm a serious podcaster.
We have...
I'm a professional.
Oh, my. We have with us tonight the incredible David Howard Thornton. And you'll know him, we talked at length in our episode on Terrifier as Art the Clown. They have wrapped, I believe, and David will confirm in a second, Terrifier 2, which we're so looking forward to.
Super excited.
You may have also seen him as the Joker in Nightwing Escalation. He has done original audio Western drama, Powder Burns, Sam Locker. And we've got some things coming up. Night of the Living Dead 2, Sharkbait Zombie, and a couple things in post-production. I won't say the names because sometimes people don't want them, even though it's on the web out there. Hello, David.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good.
That's a crazy resume there.
And there's just so much more, but, you know,
yeah.
we encourage people to get out there and do some digging.
Yeah. Because that doesn't even have my non-union work on there because I've done a lot of non-union voiceover work. So there's.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Are you allowed to say that?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. It's just they've never put it up on IMDb. So I'm like, and there's a horrible video game I did years ago that thankfully they've never put up on there too. So I'm like, oh good, I don't want people, thinking of me with that one. Like, oh no. I try to forget that game happened.
I have a question I've been dying to ask, and this relates to about Art the Clown and your performance as a mime. Okay. Have you studied, or do you at least know of Robert Shields?
No, I don't actually. I know. How dare I? How dare I? I'm going to have to look that up now.
Robert Shields was huge. He studied under Marcel Marceau.
Oh, okay.
In Paris. They had a TV show in the 70s, Shields and Yarnell. And he's most famous for the robot. And they had a robot couple that was like almost exclusively the skits moved around them. Yeah, look him up because there's shots of him in Paris wearing like a drum major jacket, and he is so athletic and crazy. He got arrested so many times in Paris for performing in the squares. But
that's saying a lot too, because I lost so much of that.
Oh yeah. used to live near Sedona, Arizona, where he ended up settling, and I met him several times.
Oh, wow.
He had a restaurant. He had a slow jazz station. I'd go eat at his restaurant, and sometimes he would show up and perform unannounced. And I got some doodads he signed, pictures with him. He's just a really cool guy. And
I've actually probably seen his work before, just didn't realize it.
A lot of people have done that. They'll get back like, oh, I know who that dude is. I just didn't know his name. But I'm one of those perennial geeks, so I can name Shields and Yarnell, Captain and Tennille.
Captain Coke,
Well, tell us a little bit about the mime training.
Yeah, well, actually, oddly enough, I don't really have actual mime training per se.
Okay.
I have just been a lifelong student of physical comedy. And or just that kind of acting, just physical acting. My parents and grandparents, especially my maternal grandparents, they gave me a great education on the silent film era, especially.
Oh yes,
so, Chaplin and Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd. Got cat hair in my mouth. That's the joy of living with a cat. It's like hairball. But yeah, so I mean, that's where I have that long appreciation for Harpo Marx. Even like when I was a teenager, when I first really started getting into doing theater, my aunt gifted me a box set of all of the Mr. Bing tapes.
Yes. Oh, those are amazing!
Oh my god! And I would sit there and just watch them over and 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 over because I just love that style of comedy because it's something you don't see that often, especially now, and it's brilliant. It's so smart and it's so hard to pull off.
Yes.
And I just loved it, and I was like, I want to do something like this. And so when I was doing a lot of children's theater growing up, we had a great local children's theater called Fancy Playhouse in Huntsville, Alabama. It sounds like something else, not for kids, but no, it's actually for kids. But I really cultivated my skills there with physical comedy because children are more into the visual humor than they are into the verbal humor.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of slapstick. I did a lot of community del arts as well. I did 2 shows there. One was Androcles the Lion. I played Androcles in that. And also For the Love of 3 Oranges, where I played Truffaldino the Jester in that. And both those were in the style of community arts and a lot of slapstick. I literally carried around a slapstick as Truffaldino, and I had so much fun just whop, 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 going up to people with that. And, I loved it. And that's where I really cultivated a lot of that. But I never really had anybody that could train me because there's not many places, especially when I was growing up in Alabama, there was not anybody that was actually trained in that and was training people in that style. And so I just learned from watching and I would just adapt. But after I moved here to New York, I was fortunate enough for 5 years to understudy Stephen Carl, who was Robbie Rotten on Lazy Town on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And I was his understudy for The Grinch with the national tour of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical. And Stephen was actually trained in clowning. And so he was a pro at this. He was amazing. And so he was able to take me aside and he's like, I see what you're doing. Now here's how to make it better. Just take this and do this and do this and do this. And I'm like, I see what you're doing now. I'm like, I get it. I get it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so I just have a data bank up in my head of this kind of stuff now. And so when I started doing Terrifier, with Art being a silent character like that, I'm like, well, how can I make him stand out from all these other silent villains in slashers? So he's a clown. And well, let's bring more of that aspect to the character than what Mike Gianelli did with it in All Hallows Eve. And so that's what I did. And I was like, that's how I approached it. I was like, okay, how would Stefan approach a lot of these situations that Art's in? Mm-hmm. And that's basically what I did. I called it my WWSD moments, my what will Stefan do moment. And I would just go from there, and it just happened organically after a while. I've gotten to where I don't even have to think about it anymore. I just there were some situations because going back a little bit, like when I auditioned for Terrifier, Damien didn't know me. So when he wrote the role in Terrifier and all the scenes in Terrifier, he didn't know my style of acting. And he discovered it once we were on set. It's like, oh, wow, you're really good at just playing around with situations and seeing what comes up. Yeah, so we did a lot of, there were some times in Terrifier 1 where it's like, oh, just, I don't know what I want you to do here. Just come up with something. And so when he wrote Terrifier 2, there were specific scenes he wrote in the script where he's like, art plays. And that's basically all he did. He's like, we don't know what we're going to do until we get there in the environment and I see what I'm going to be interacting with. And that was so much fun for me. There's 2 scenes in particular where I really just got to play with everything in my environment. And I just went in there and I looked around at what I had, and I'm like, I came up with my own routine, and I showed Damien. I'm like, what do you think of this? He's like, oh, that's awesome. Let's film it now. Well, we still got it fresh in your head and everything like that. Because that's how I am. I sometimes just go with instincts and just go with the flow. Whatever happens. It's like a great example of that was when you see me flick the bird in Terrifier.
Yes.
That was not in the script at all. Damien thought, flicking the bird was just way too contrived. And I was just goofing around with my co-star when she was having to come back to do another take. And they just got it on film. And they're like, that's hysterical with the moment, because it was like, yeah, you stabbed me in the foot. Fuck you. how can you show that? No, I'll just flick her off. They just captured that on, tape. Because sometimes, I don't want to go off script because I know, especially Damien knows exactly what he wants, but I was just goofing around, and the whole crew just started laughing. He's like, wow. Let's keep that. That's funny. That actually works in the situation. That's not actually contrived there. That totally works.
Excellent. You answered some questions I had.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, yeah, because that whole, Art the Clown. When we saw All Hallows Eve, we thought this was great, and then we see Terrifier, later. Like, oh, his whole head's in the poster. This is all art, and yes. What you brought to that. And that's one thing I was going to ask is, how much of that was you? It's because there's always a tough balance. The director has a vision, and, in indie film, more often than not, they've written or had a hand in writing what they're filming.
Right.
But this kind of relationship, I love hearing about these, where a director has enough faith in the performers to let them take the reins and at least feel it out. I think that is something that, lacks in the Hollywood structured films, because, you don't have $150 million on the line.
No.
And you only want to make yourselves happy, and obviously the audience, but you know who you're reaching out to. And,
if you get the crew laughing, you did something right.
Yes.
That's the thing. And that's what I love about working with this crew, not just Damien, just the whole entire crew. It's a very inclusive environment. It's a team.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's not Damien or I, someone else has an idea, we're like, yeah, let's hear it. Let's see if that might work instead. And, we play around with things. And that's what I liked about this. Is like, because it was a nice little balance, both films, where it's a balance between, Damien and I. It wasn't, one person was really dictating the whole entire thing. It's like, he would have ideas, and there would be certain moments where he knew exactly what he wanted Art to do, down to the facial expressions he was making. And other times it's like, let's just see what we can come up with here in the situation. And so it was a lot of that. And that's what I really like, because I've worked with directors where they're my way or the highway, or I've had other directors who's like, whatever, and there's no direction at all. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing everything right here. So it's a nice balance there. And it's great, because it's not just me and Damien. It's been the other actors as well. It's a very collaborative effort, and it's because we just want to give the audience the best performance as possible. And sometimes other people have cool ideas that you haven't even thought of.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, let's try that. And that's what we do. Like, we would do certain takes. We're like, sometimes David would just like, okay, let's do serious takes now. Okay, now David, just play. And that way he just had options. Like, another great example of that was the scene in Terrifier where I've got Jenna Cannell's character Tara tied up to the chair, and I'm pulling out different instruments from my bag and taunting her. I was doing some comedic things, and I was doing some scary things. I did. There was this one prop that we had in there that looked like this. It was like this big pole, and it had this big, huge metal spike going out perpendicular to it. So it kind of looked like a golf club, but with a big, huge spike instead for the club.
Okay.
And so I did the whole Johnny Carson swinging the golf club bit and everything with it, just like I was going to hit her kneecap with it. I'm like, oh, fooled you. Gotcha. And so I was doing both funny and scary. And we just kind of looked at it. It's like, the funny stuff is funny, but let's not do funny here. But we had those options.
Right.
And that's what's really cool about it. It's like, let's just give options, and we can always put stuff into like extra features or something like that, whatever doesn't get cut. And I'm like, I know they're like, especially this one scene in part 2, there are going to be so many outtakes from that, because I was just playing with everything on what was around me. And I'm like, it's kind of like a Robin Williams moment where, like, okay, I've got this and this and this and this and this and this and this. I'm going to come up with all these funny little situations.
Excellent. The set becomes a prop.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
But
we love that bag scene where she's tied to the, and you're going through it. Have you seen Redwood Massacre?
No, I have not.
I recommend it. And the follow-up.
It's another indie movie.
Yeah. It's really good. It has my favorite masked killer.
Oh, cool.
Wearing a burlap mask.
He's your favorite, partially because he's good, but also because the director just took the name that you gave him and put it in the credits.
Yeah. Little quick recap on that. So we did an episode on Redwood Massacre. And when we watch movies, we're taking notes and watching the movie. So if it's something we haven't seen before, sometimes we'll miss a name, because we do like it's just sometimes too much to keep up. So I ended up just calling him Burlap because he was wearing a burlap mask, and it was freaky as hell. This thing is wicked. And so the director heard the podcast episode, and we talked to him several times on the show, and Liam, David and Liam, both. And so for the follow-up, they named him Burlap.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I am ready to go to heaven now. But the actor who played him is very much like you. He's silent, and he doesn't get facial expressions. Right. So the clowning bit doesn't even factor in. But in the same as you, when he had a victim on a table, he'd walk over to his tools and he would pick it up. And it was a similarity between the two in that yours was more kind of sort of a clown on the go kind of thing. What do you think of this? How about I use this? His was almost like a toddler picking up toys, looking over. There's this, put it down, get in the he'll pick something else. Maybe this, that's the feel that you got from it.
Mm-hmm.
So we laughed so hard.
That's great.
Because we knew it wasn't a bit. Right. But we laughed because how terrifying would that be to have someone so casually disconnected from the situation? Is like, what do you think how about a hole punch? Huh? And this poor person sitting there, they know they're going to die.
Yeah.
And that's us. We laugh at these macabre things. That's why we love horror.
Well,
that's
one of the really
that's
cool
what
things.
I love about it too.
Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful. No, it's all good. One of the really cool things about, silent killers in horror movies is that you can play with that kind of body language, and that kind of acting, I think, like you said, is very smart. It's also really interesting because it can translate. It translates. It's not language bound, right? You could watch Terrifier and not understand English, right? If it weren't translated into any other languages, and you would totally get it, right?
That's very true, and I think that's why we are as popular as we are internationally, because it does translate. I think that's why Mr. Bean is so popular internationally, because it doesn't matter where you are, you can watch that and know exactly what he's meaning is, and what his intentions are, what's going on with the situation there. It's just like, because the body expressions and facial expressions are universal for the most part.
Right.
Absolutely. I think it helps the antagonist, or just the bad guy, the evil man, when there is no speaking, because I thought about this a lot. How would Art come across after all this physical presentation of who he is? How would you have him speak to match that,
I know.
right? Because I think of like the Joker. So many people have played the Joker in so many different kinds of things.
Well, you've played the Joker, David.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but so you have the Joker, who in the DC universe has a certain, this is what he is. And over the years, it's kind of gone here and there. But, you have to show not only is he just, batshit crazy and diabolical, but you have to find a way to bring that presence in his speech and how he speaks, the words that he chooses to use, to show that he's not an accidental terrorist. He has put some deep thought into this. A
lot of thought.
Yeah.
He loves to show that too, with all of his monologuing.
Yes, he loves to articulate. He is the best non-Bond villain ever.
Yeah.
Oh
my God, he's got some of the best monologues out there. It's just about, sanity and all that. It's just, I love it. Love it.
Oh, so yeah, Art, I think, does good as a silent.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Because I've had people ask me if he's ever going to speak. I'm like, no. And because it just, and plus the voice that, that would come out of him, people would be so upset with. Because everybody has their own. Yeah, everybody has their own picture in their own mind how he would sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always joked it'd be just funny if he just had this very formal British accent. He's like, "Oh yes, how are you doing today? Oh yes, I'm going to be killing you today. It's going to be so very nice. Don't run away.
Please don't be put out."
Yeah. Oh gosh, bleeding everywhere. It's gotten all over this. I keep having to clean this. Oh, this is. You don't understand how hard blood is to get out, especially white.
See,
I should have just made this all black.
Now, I have to admit, I would love to see you do that kind of a voiceover. I can't remember the name of the show. Is it What's My Line?
Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Whose Line Is It Anyway? Yes, thank you. So many shows. I love the bit where they did like the 3-minute voiceover. They'll just have a film playing and they'll just make stuff up as they go. See, that would be hilarious for a DVD bonus.
That would be so much fun. I've done that. I think I did that one time at a screening, and I just started just cracking jokes as Art, like what he's thinking in the moment. And I had a little bit to drink that night, and I was just having fun with the audience, and it was just like,
oh man. Oh, that would.
I don't even remember what I said. I was just being silly. I was like, oh boy. I was expecting someone at one point just go shh to me. I'm like, sorry.
Oh man. What? So Art, right? When we're watching it, we'll stick with Terrifier, because before it's sort of a random kind of happenings thing going on. There's not enough on him, but watching him, full on in Terrifier, especially at the end, you ask yourself, what's his bag? Mm-hmm. Like, is this just,
the glad bag?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Is he just deranged? Is he driven? Or is he like something else? And at the end, of course, we get that very, that confirmation. There's something else.
Yeah.
Normal folks don't wake up with thunder and then doing the medical examiner.
Very true.
So I was just like, when you were doing art, did you focus on any of this, or was it just, I'm here in the moment and this is what we're doing? Like, did you think he's like, this is an otherworldly thing who doesn't have a care, or is it more crazy? I mean, what was your take?
A little bit of both, because when I first came in for my makeup test, that's what I asked Damien about. And I'm like, okay, tell me everything about this character. What's his background? What's his motivation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, I really haven't thought all that out. I just thought he looks really cool and it's a cool character. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, well, that we just made it. We're like, well, let's just come up with all of his story together and really flesh him out together. And that's what we would do during the process. I mean, we're still spitballing ideas about his origins and stuff like that.
Okay.
But to answer those questions, that he's definitely more driven in part 2, I will say.
Okay.
But yeah, he's definitely deranged, and there's definitely something else going on with him, because like not everybody comes back from just blowing their brains out.
Right.
It's just like, yeah, there's something different going on there, and we start to address that in part 2. We don't want to just flat out just spell everything out. We like to infer a lot, because we don't really want to treat our audience like they're stupid. And plus, I think it's fun seeing all the different theories that people come up with too. It's like some of them like cooler than some of the ideas we've come up with. I'm like, oh man, we can't steal that now. That's a good idea.
You totally can.
Yeah, I know, but it just doesn't feel right. It's just like, oh man, because that person, I came up with that first. I'm like, oh man, that's cool.
I think our advice for Damien would be not to answer it.
Oh yeah, that's kind of that's kind of an approach we want to take with it in some ways too. It's just like, because I think leaving some mystery there about the characters part of the fun. I mean, you didn't even find out who Freddy Krueger really was until like the 5th film.
Right. And that's the point where they all literally die in the world of public interest. And they, in the audience's mind, is this like force, like Mike Myers was, what in the hell is this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the boogeyman, that was the closest they came. And, but then as the shows went on, we learned more, and he became less intimidating, less mysterious, less
scary.
Yeah. Less godlike.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, art, we're like, oh, I'd love to know, but I don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know, because art is one of those elements in life that just exists, and he's bad, and that's enough.
Yeah. I like that. I like hearing that people want that too, because that's kind of the approach I think we've come up with an idea that kind of satiates both camps there, because there are people that do want his origin and stuff like that. But I think we've found a cool way to do that in a way, which is like you still have the mystery, but also like we reveal, I guess you could say, how he becomes Art the Clown. But but we don't do that in part 2 yet. We offer some little clues here or there, but there's going to be a lot of more questions people are going to be asked. There's this one character that hasn't even been revealed yet that people are going to be like, "What the?" There's going to be a lot of questions about that character. I can't wait, but it's just. But we have a plan, and I think it's a cool idea. But I going back, I think there is one bit that. A key bit that was in Terrifier that the cat lady pointed out, and I kind of have used this to keep me, I've cemented this in my head. This is why he does what he does. She says he does it because he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like he's not doing this out of revenge or anything like that. He's just doing it because this amuses him.
Yeah.
This is fun. And I kind of look at that. That's what he is. He's the anti-clown in that way, because clowns, their job is to bring joy and amusement to other people.
Right.
He brings terror and pain to other people for his own amusement.
Right.
And that you see that with his kills, where he's not your typical killer where he just stabs and then walks off to the next kill. He stabs and keeps stabbing, and then he just starts playing with his food.
Yes.
And it's just like, my God, this guy's sick. And I think that makes him even more of a threat. It's like, oh my God, like if he's got his sights set on you, you are not going to have a good day. It's not going to be a simple, one and done, a spear through the head type of kill. He's going to be having his fun with you. And even if it is a quick kill, he's going to do some crazy stuff with your body afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like, my God, he's just it's such a demented character. And that's what I love about him. And I think that's what, feeds more into like, his background that I am excited about exploring more in the future. It's like, oh my God, this is a really messed up character. We don't want, that's the main thing that Damien and I are talking, because like we were coming up with different origin stories, and I think we both have come up with some really cool things that we're just not going to use because they made him sympathetic, and we don't want people to sympathize with him.
No.
Right. No.
Don't want people to feel sorry for him. It's like, he's not some abused guy that's, it's like,
right. Adding that human factor, yeah, it demystifies this force for us. And now it's like, because we've talked about many times in horror and other things, the best villains are the ones with no motivation. They simply want to see the world burn. That's it.
And that's scary. That really
is the
scary.
Scariest thing, because you can't have a conversation with someone like that.
You can't reason with them.
With them. You can't gain empathy or sympathy from them.
Yeah. It's not like the Mr. Freezes where you can like, reach the human part of them and like, hey, look, what you're doing is wrong and blah, 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 blah. You can change this about you. Someone like Art, you can't reason with them. And that's what I love. We did that scene with the cat lady where we made people think that, there is that human aspect to him she reached him in a way like, no, he was doing that just to mess with her.
Yes.
he knew that was her weakness, but that motherly instinct is like, I'm going to bring her in and really just mess with her.
And I'm going to wear her like pajamas.
Yeah. That's messed up.
Well, and from an audience perspective, it actually, it evokes a physical reaction knowing, this killer is this way. And then, the victims are still going to be very human. And, and in this, they did well with everyone did well with emotional projection. And that combination of absolute disbelief, like, what the fuck is actually happening to me? I mean, I can't even process this. And then the terror of, I know what's happening to me.
Yeah.
And to see them beg and try to, strike that chord, and they're just shooting off into the ether.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to hit.
Nope.
It makes you feel more empathy and terror for the victim, because it's just like, it's like, coming.
Just get out of there. Just run. Run.
Yeah.
Don't even try fighting back. Just go.
Especially when they get that glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there going, no, you're gonna die so much sadder than you were 5 minutes ago.
Your heart. Oh,
aren't you adorable?
Yeah, it's like, don't sit on his lap. Oh
my God. Yeah, the beginning of Terrifier, the introduction of Art, was just wild. I mean, we laughed and we were quiet and we were just like,
oh, that scene's brilliant.
Oh yeah.
I that's my favorite scene in the movie, and it's so brilliant because you don't have to have some exposition about who he is or anything like that. There's none. And you just see everything about this character in that one scene. You see his playful side. You see his creepy side. Then you see his just sadistic, evil, just good God side. It's all there. You know everything you need to know about the guy in like 5 minutes or less. You don't have to have some narration going, oh, he's this. It's like, oh, no, we got him. We got him. Nope.
Yep.
Stay away.
One of the things I liked was when he left and went to the bathroom, And I mentioned this on our episode. If you live in New York, if you lived in New York through your like teen years and stuff, you've had to have, you live in the city, you've worked at a pizza shop or some place for a little while.
I have actually. Yes.
Yeah. And in the show, I said, well, and if you're listening and you're doing that and you haven't washed shit off the bathroom walls yet, you haven't been there long enough.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep. I've had that happen, and I'm like, no, I don't get paid enough. I'm handling food. You don't want me to do this.
Yep.
Someone else has to do this.
But I liked that level of in the introduction of Art. It isn't just about murder. You know, he's just operating on a whole new plane. So now I'm just going to go smear some shit in the walls and write my name. And then carry on like, you know, nothing's happened. And then we see what he does when you throw his bag of goodies out and yell at him in your own store. Oh my God, those were for the first 2 kills. Holy Christ, those were wonderful.
Those were really good.
Yeah, that was. Oh man, yeah. They're fun kills, and it's like Damien just outdid himself with those practical effects too. Like just the face that I'm stabbing into. I was really stabbing in with a real scalpel into this, and he built layers under this thing with muscles. And I was like, oh man! I was like, when I was stabbing into, I was like, oh my God, dude, you got like a muscle layer under here, and there's all this, and there's bone, and I'm like, whoa! I was like, you don't even see all that on film. I was like, this is insane. This is amazing.
Well, that was one of the high kudos we get. Do you want to talk about practical stuff?
Well, yeah, this movie is all practical, you know, and that, okay, for one, not easy to do, right? But it looks amazing.
Yeah.
The blood in this movie, so much blood. So good.
Much blood.
I actually wanted to ask you, because Art has prosthetics on his face, right?
Correct.
You get prosthetics and stuff. When you see him, like, do you get freaked out? Because, I mean, obviously you look, you don't look like Art, right?
Right. Thankfully. I think my dentist is very thankful of that too.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, does it freak you out, like seeing him?
It did at first, because I'm get like the makeup I wear is so light. I forget sometimes I'm wearing it, and I would go to the bathroom and I would just and I'll just look up in the mirror. I'm like, oh God, hey, buddy, hey.
It's just me.
And I would just do that to my coworkers and co-stars in this too, where I would just be standing nonchalantly behind them. They didn't know I was there, and they'd turn around, and I'm just like, oh, hi. And they're like, ah, man, fuck you. I'm like, sorry. Sometimes I would do it intentionally. I did that especially to our female lead in part 2. She has a fear of clowns. And I am so surprised I did not get my face punched in so many times. Because she's got, you know, she takes multiple martial arts and stuff like that, so she could literally kick my ass. And I'm like, man, I was playing with fire there. I was like, but she would be in a conversation, I would just stand behind her, and she would just turn around, and I'm like, hi. God!
Well, that's a valid question, because people think about actors getting made up either with prosthetics or just, you know, face makeup and stuff. Beyond rouge and, you know, touch up. This isn't a costume party. I mean, we dress up as pirates and go to the Ren Fair, and we're very much aware we're at the fair. It's like a costume party, you know, 4 or 6 hours, something like that. But in a movie, you're not just dressing up. You're doing a whole persona. And, you know, these things can go on 12 hours, you know, because you got...
Oh, easily 12. Easily 12.
And, you know, if you don't have enough, like, touch-up, a break in that reality, like, here, let's fix you. Let's, you know, put your thing down, get a little bit there, smudge. Okay, all good. To me, I think you would just, you're doing the part, but then when you're not, you know, you're just not in that space where I have all this stuff on. I have a little hat, and I've got blood spattered on me now. You're just like, this is what we're making. This is what is going on. And, oh, that's great. And you're watching your fellow performers do their thing. And you're, and then, hey, how you doing? And you just completely forget, sweet Jesus.
Yep. Oh, yeah. It's got to be one of the most disconcerting things for my co-stars, because I don't stay in character the whole entire time. I'm a mischievous person in real life anyway, so I like to joke around and stuff like that. But I'm not being sadistic and cruel on set. But so I'll be doing my funny voices and just making jokes. But then they're like, "Okay, rolling," and then I just become art right in front of them. They're like, "Oh God!" I just put on the angry eyes. And it's like I think Lauren Lavere, who plays Sienna in part 2, she's talked about that in a few interviews. It's like, how I will just change in like a second or two, just like, oh, and there's art. It's funny. And then they're like, cut. And I'm like, are you okay? I'm like covered in blood, and I was like, I didn't hurt you, did I? I'm sorry if I had. So, I just become David again, and I'm.
What was so adding still onto the effects thing, because we marveled, we love practical effects, and even when they don't work real well in some films, we're like full props because you didn't go the pre-made CGI thing.
Yeah.
You went and did it. And I love hearing the level of detail, the layers.
Yeah.
Because if anyone has ever questioned it, we're here to say it paid off in spades, because it was so good. It wasn't a buckling face as you're stabbing it and everything. So now I know why it looks so good, because he paid that kind of attention. Working with that level of practical effects, and I'm going to bring up the hanging woman.
Yes.
And the chainsaw. Whoops. I'm going to knock my own stuff over. We look at that and we appreciate it as, an audience, as a horror fan. We're like, sweet. But then as creatives, we're like, God, what was that like? Having to work. Because when we see things like that, we know they're expensive. And on indie films, budget is usually, let's just make 8 of them and then see how it goes and use the best one. A lot of times it's one and done.
We just had one.
Yeah. See? So it's like,
We just had one. So that's, our budget, I think, was like $50,000 for Terrifier. So we had a very, 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 very small budget. Like when Damien told me what the budget was, I thought it was like 10 times that. And I was laughing my ass off. Because I cannot believe we made what we made on that budget. Wow.
Right. Absolutely.
Most even low budget films are made for a few million.
Right.
So that was insane. We made it for less money than even the original movies were made for back in the 70s that were low budget, that become big franchises now, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
That was more expensive than Terrifier was. Not even counting for inflation. It's just like, it's insane. And it's just like, wow. But that just shows that the skills that Damien has. And I think that's what saved a lot of money, was he did the practical effects himself. And he's self-taught. He didn't go to school for that. He just learned from watching videos about Tom Savini and stuff like that. He learned from just doing it and experimenting most of his life. And I was like, his blood recipe, he buys like the blood that you can buy in bulk, but then he adds stuff to it, like chocolate syrup and soap and some other things. And because it like, especially when it's going on the prosthetics, it beats up a different way if you add soap to it, so it's more realistic. It's not beating up like water. He understands the science behind it all. He's a pro at this stuff. And like going back to the hacksaw scene, that was such a hard scene to do too, because it's a dangerous thing. It's never been done before. They had to build a rig. They tested it on our DP, since he was like the biggest guy in the crew, and like, well, if it's going to hold George, it's going to hold anybody. And so they did that, and we could only let Catherine hang upside down for 30 seconds at a time because it's so dangerous for a human to be upside down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that made it so difficult to shoot because we're like, oh god, we only have 30 seconds. Let's go, 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 go. And then we'd swing her back up and swing her back down again after she rested for a little bit. Let's do it again. And it was such a stressful night that night, especially with her. We did in 3 parts. We shot Jenna Cannell's stuff first, and that was in New Jersey because she had to go film The Bye Bye Man.
Okay.
And then we shot Catherine's stuff 2 months later in Staten Island, and it was 20 degrees that night. And we had no heat in that room. So that was miserable for her.
Oh my God.
Such a pro. I'm like, no complaining. She knew what this scene was going to become. So she's like, yeah, I'll suffer now, but it's going to be worth it. And then another day, I got to actually cut through the prosthetic they made of her with a real hacksaw. And that's when we added the intestines falling out and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that was a less stressful day because I was like, oh, now I can just have fun cutting this thing. But I can only cut it one time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that's
waterfall
right.
coming down.
And that's the thing. These huge gambles.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. And that's how both films have been with some of these prosthetics. So like it's a one-shot deal. And those are not really is like part one. I mean, like when I pulled the head off of the exterminator, that was a one-shot deal, and I just did that myself. That was kind of cool. But like we have some prosthetics in part 2 where I have horrible depth perception. Okay. And of course, I'm not able to wear my glasses when I'm art. So I'm like, oh God. And I did not want to mess it up. Plus, there are some people in our crew, like Mike Levy, who was actually the exterminator in part 1. He's the AD in part 2.
Nice.
But he and his brother Jason, who was the cop that comes in, the bald cop, they would sometimes come in and even Steve DeSella, who was also one of the cops, they would come in and relief pitch for me a few times in part 2 when it came to certain things, because I'm like, I don't want to mess it. I know we only have one shot with this prosthetic. I don't want to mess this up. So like, I know you've got much better aim and you're stronger than I am physically. And so like the important thing is for me is put ego aside, and we do what's going to get the best effect. Especially since we have one shot at this, I'd rather, put my ego aside and get the best shot we can possibly out of it. And I'm glad we did that because, man, I know I could not have done some of these things nearly as well as these guys did it because they have that good aim. I'm like, oh, that looks gnarly. Oh, the way the prosthetic just worked with it. I was like, oh my God. So, woo. And plus it was fun for them too. And also gave me a chance to rest. There's this one prosthetic, you'll know it when you see it in the movie, where I'm wailing on it and I'm just not getting through. It's just like, it was just made so well. And I was just getting winded. I'm like, I'm getting tired. And then Mike comes in. He's much stronger than me. He finally took him a few blows and he finally cracked through it. And we're like, wow, there we go. That's the shot we needed too. So great.
Oh, man. We talked several months back about blood in these, where any film, any level of film that we can reference, so much disparity in the blood realm.
Yeah.
And very few have gotten it right. This, Damien got it right, and how you explained it, it makes perfect sense. And there was a couple we've talked about in the past where they really hit it, and it's almost like, an understanding of like the human anatomy. When you bite your lip, the blood that comes out is going to be very different than the blood that comes out of your thigh if you stab yourself with a small spike or, a large nail,
Right.
The paper cut blood is different than like a bloody nose. All these things. And that's one of the things that I think just made Terrifier so marvelously, but, cringingly gruesome.
Just visceral.
Yeah. Was the kinds of blood when the intestines fell out. You can tell it wasn't the same as what's, how it's sitting on the face. And, it was really, just really well done.
Yeah.
I need to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think you'd reach a point in your life where you'd be able to see yourself in what size is it? Is it 8-inch or 12-inch figure?
Yeah,
but
what are those?
A figure of you.
12-inch figure.
Is it?
Oh, I never imagined that. I never imagined that. And the funny thing is that's always been a lifelong goal of mine. I always wanted to have an action figure of a character I've played one day.
Nice. Well,
but I never imagined that would happen, especially this type of character. I never imagined I would be a horror quote unquote icon, as some people are saying now. And I'm like, because that's not, I'm a nerd. I'm a little scrawny little geek. I'm like, in my head, I always think of like the horror guys, big, huge, burly, muscle-bound men. I'm like, that's not me. I'm like Randy from Scream. So it's just the most surreal thing to see this, the Halloween costumes and there's so much of what things fans have created.
Yeah,
it just boggles my mind, the artwork that's out there, and just
like full resin bust replicas.
Because we're obviously not the first podcast to do Terrifier. I mean, that's been going on, and I know it's funny because we were doing it. We had just recorded it, but our things are 2 weeks. We record everything 2 weeks early.
Okay,
just in case something comes up. We'll have time to catch up and not miss a weekly post. But we've seen so much fan art that people have shown, hey, we're doing Terrifier this week. And we're like, we already did that, but yeah, that's gorgeous, man. That poster, and just looking up, just like the poster, to put up with the tweets, here's what's this week's episode. I saw so much stuff out there that was unofficial, and it's gorgeous, but you are absolutely an icon.
Oh yeah.
With art, because here's the thing. You can come up with any crazy ass kind of character doing all kinds of wacky shit to people and blooded up, gored up. You can even go old grindhouse and throw cow's livers against the wall, right? And do all that stuff. But it's the actor as that character that makes or breaks, those pinnacle moments.
Right.
And you, and the process that you explained with Damien and just everyone else, I think, that is a magical formula, because everything came together to make this a truly memorable and almost obsessively memorable character in the horror world. Yeah, because we're like, we don't really collect like horror figures per se. We're geeks too. I mean, there's some, they're kind of hidden, but I got Zephyrim from Star Trek, right?
Wow.
Who has a 12-inch figure of the inventor of warp drive? I do. And we got Lord of the Rings. We got stuff everywhere. But every now and again, though, we're what we call fascination collectors. We love all this stuff, but we just don't have room for it, and we don't have that kind of money, because it can get expensive quick. But we see something like art, and we're like, you know what? That's one of them.
Yeah.
That's one we're going to get. Because I have actually been trying to reach out to different companies on behalf of David Ryan Keith, who did Redwood Massacre, to get them to do a burlap figure. Because if you see the movies, you're like, he needs to be on a shelf somewhere. It's just haunting, and it's cool. He's this big hulky guy. And the guy who plays him is like you. He's so gentle and, and quiet.
That's the funny thing. Is like most of these actors that I have met, they all these guys that play these horrible, horrible characters on screen are just the biggest teddy bears in real life.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, David would talk about, he had problems with Ben because, he's supposed to be roughing people up. And especially when it came to the women, he was so reluctant to do too much. He didn't want to hurt.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. I'm like, they're like, Jenna Cannell's like, David, you can actually do that to me. So it actually gives me something to work off of. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, yes, go ahead. put your fingers on my eyes and press in. It gives me something to react off. I'm like, I don't want to hurt you. So I guess okay, if you hurt me, then I'll kick your ass later. But let's get the shot.
Well, and that's what happened there. One of the women was almost yelling at him, "Hit me!" Like make contact. Let's do that. And it's just it kills me. But Art the Clown is going to be sitting on our shelf when he makes his birth debut. And we can't.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm
still waiting for a Funko figure too. I need my Funko Pop figure because there's so many knockoffs that people have made. Even Damien makes some knockoffs, but we don't have an official Funko yet. And I'm like, come on, get on this, guys!
Right? For real, I need a friend for Twisty here.
Oh my gosh, there are going to be so many options, especially variants that we can do with art once Part 2 comes out, and there's all these other characters too that just easily lends itself to Funko figures.
They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I can't help but think of Deadpool and how when he hit the scene, all these great things. I could definitely see you guys it's all about time and stuff.
Right.
I think you would have great success doing some little art shorts,
we've actually talked about doing that.
Art the Clown dating game,
Yeah.
Just all these random normal scenarios, Art's cologne. How you would react to that? I mean, we can imagine it because you've given us so much in Art's outfit. I think people would eat that up. And
we've talked about doing that in between films and stuff like that. Just we could put in kills that we just haven't been able to. We just can't put into a movie. This doesn't fit in anywhere. We can just do this as a little short. It shows what Art's doing on his days off or something like that. It's just
Art working as a retail clerk or as a small shop owner, he goes in, people go in, he shows them something, they enjoy it. And then he's all, and then someone comes like, he gets an asshole customer, the tight face, the eyes. And you're like, no.
Yep. It's just that kind of stuff. Someone's just obnoxiously honking their horn on the street and it's like,
gives them the look.
You want to play this game? Yeah.
In the next shot, Art's walking down with a leg sticking out of a bag.
Yep. It's just there's so many possibilities. That's what I love about the characters, the endless possibilities with them. It's not like with Mike Myers, you only have some because it's always so centered around like Laurie Strode and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That whole battle between the two of them. But it's like Art, it's like he has a protagonist that he's going up against and stuff like that in Part 2 that we're really setting up this character. But that's not all what he's about. He just likes to cause mayhem wherever he goes, and so there's always so many possibilities of him just causing mayhem.
Yeah, just like Art's vlog,
day-to-day life. Yeah. And that's what I think is fun. Is just seeing Art in real world situations that just like you, and we do have some of those kind of moments in Part 2 where it's just like, wow, this has never been done before in a horror film, and this explains something that there's a great scene in Part 2. Oh my God, I love it so much, and it's just like, this explains so much about what this is the stuff that would happen off screen usually, and you're like, oh wow, we're actually going to show it. It's just like, it's just one of those like, but then we do something fun with it. It's just like, why not? Why not? It's because I think it adds more believability to the character, makes him more relatable to the audience. It's like, oh wow, it makes him seem like he's actually part of the world.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing because we talked about it. Mike Myers, this force that came sweeping out of a mental institution, showed up and then vanished after being shot.
Yeah,
and that's what made Halloween so fantastic because you walk away going, oh my God, what is going to happen next? Jason Voorhees, first it's his mother and then it's him, and then it's like, okay, we kind of get where that's coming from.
Yep.
but they're all self-contained. It's Camp Crystal Lake. And once they moved out of Camp Crystal Lake, it was like, is fucking Jason on vacation? I mean, yeah, it doesn't work.
Plus, take Jason on the cruise to Manhattan.
Yeah. and none of it worked. It didn't work because they were so reliant on their atmosphere. I mean, if you took Mike Myers and dropped him off in Vegas, I wouldn't be interested.
No.
It's because,
you could drop Art off in any location.
Anywhere.
And it's just like,
Art is the next. God. He's the next. Where's Waldo?
Possibilities are endless. Oh my God, Art in Vegas would just be insane.
That'd be so fun.
Oh my God, it's just that kind of stuff.
Where's Art? Art?
I love those kind of ideas. It's just like dropping him in different situations. It's
Art the Clown visits Pennsylvania Dutch country.
Yeah. That's funny too, because basically where we were filming upstate New York was in the middle of Amish country.
Oh my God.
For part 2. And it's just like, we would be leaving set early in the morning while the Amish are going off to do their chores. And we pass these buggies on the street. And here I am covered in blood. And I just wave. And they're like, oh. I'm like, hi. I had so much fun fucking with them. No one's expecting that. When a car passes them, you just see this bloody clown. You're like, hi.
Oh my God. That's the next new phrase. What? Used to be, nobody expects the Inquisition. Now it's, nobody expects Art the Clown.
There you go.
Oh, I'm going to have to make that work.
Because you don't know when he's going to show up somewhere. It's just like,
put that on a shirt. Show up
in the most random places. And like, what the hell? Why are you here, man?
Right, like he just walks onto a subway car, takes a seat.
Why not? Just like I would love to see him up against the people that come on panhandling, doing the Showtime here in New York. It's like, the dance routine, just like, no, you're gonna die. Because that's like every New Yorker's. This is those fucking Showtime guys. Oh my God, I hate them so much. It's just like I remember one of my favorite moments. This is such a New York moment. It was here because I live here in Queens, and so here in Astoria, there aren't tourists here, and so we're on the N train going in. It's 8:00 in the morning. Everybody's obviously on their way to work. And these Showtime guys get on here in Queens. And they start up the boom box, and this person just reaches over and turns off the boom box. And they're like, yo, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? These people, we want to put on a good show from. Don't you people want to see a good show? I kid you not. Every single person on that train, no, shut up. And but man, and the guy's like, fuck y'all. Fine, we're gonna go somewhere else.
Gotta know your audience.
The whole train. No.
That's amazing.
Like, that's such a New York moment. It's like
it's
everybody's just trying to wake up, and everyone's like, no, man.
Well, that's just it, man. It's a train full of people who are thinking it's 8 a.m. on my fucking way to work. They want nothing.
Yeah,
nothing
to
do with
tourists.
anything.
We've seen it all before. Oh God, the different panhandlers I will see. I'm like, I knew them all. You get the people pretending to have handicaps, which really pissed me off. There's this one blind guy that would get on all the time, and I was always tempted to see how committed he was to the act. I wanted to throw a shoe at his face and to see if he would dodge it, because that could go two ways. He could totally dodge it, and it would just like make him look like a jackass. Or he could totally commit to it and take a shoe to the face and make me look like the biggest jackass. And I'm like, oh no! Now everybody's thinking I'm beating up a handicapped guy. And I'm like, no, this guy's fake. I see him all the time. It's like I like he has seen me too, because he would be walking down the subway platform without the cane out, and he's like, oh, he's about to walk in. He's like, oh, excuse me, brother. And then he just like, train doors open up, cane comes out, and he's like, oh, help me, I'm blind. And I'm like, son of a bitch. You son of a bitch, you can see. It's like,
oh, man.
Yeah, So you got those, you got, the mariachi guys that get on. You're like, man, it's 8:00 in the morning. I don't want to hear a trumpet on the train.
Oh,
It's like, you get those.
We have collections downtown. Obviously we don't have an L or a Subway. But as a photographer, I've done street photography in Madison for years. Mm-hmm. And I've got some old photos of folks who are still today hanging out on that same corner.
Oh yeah.
15, 20 years later, and it's just, everyone walks by and it's like, I used to put some money in the cup and stuff and this and that. But, after 20 years, you're just like, you don't remember me, although you've seen me every week, but I remember you.
I know you.
Oh yeah. There was this one guy in my old neighborhood. He would sit out this place right between Starbucks and this Chinese fast food place. Yeah, takeout place. And every day he was out there, spare some change. And like one day I was walking out and he was coming around the corner of the Starbucks and he's on his cell phone. He's like, okay, I gotta let you go. I got to go to work now.
Oh my God.
Right there, hangs up the phone, spare some change. I'm like, dude, you have a cell phone plan. You're not homeless.
Right.
They've got to send the bill somewhere. Going to work now.
Come on.
He was out there every single day for years, sitting there. It's just like, it drives me crazy when I saw people give him money. I'm like, you're only encouraging it.
It's rough. I mean, I used to be guilted a lot because, I know there are people who are in dire straits.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I want to be the one that at the end of the day tried to, do a little something for them.
Yeah.
But then, oh man, over the years, you just realize, like, I used to live in Arizona, and I know there's a band of, quote, homeless folks who travel the warmer climates, and they only would come up near Flagstaff in late spring when it warmed up. And one of the laws there is you can stay on national park land for 15 days. Excuse me. And then you need to move 300 feet. And then you can stay another 15 days. So they would live in the on national park land, just a few feet from a small highway that, went up the cliffs and everything. And they would thumb into town and do their thing. And as soon as it starts getting cold, down towards Prescott and then down towards Phoenix and ultimately down towards Tucson. I know this from having sat and talked to one of them, and they have a whole routine, and that's kind of what they do. It's like, wow.
It's untaxed income too.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson about it because I used to sometimes give to panhandlers and stuff like that because I have a big heart, and I people are like, Dave, you got to stop doing that. First of all, it's dangerous to take out money in public like that. Second of all, it's just like most of these people are con artists. And I learned my lesson one day. I was going to a show, and it was this harried mom and her son. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I just, my son's having problems today. And I just need like $2 so we can get something for lunch. I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm handing her the money, and she's like, oh yeah. Oh, watch out. And I look, and her son had dropped his pants and just started to pee. And he tried to pee on me, and I jumped out of the way just in time. Whoa. And he just had this like evil look on his face, like, I was like, and I'm like, what the heck? Wow. And then I get to the theater, and I'm like, you will not believe what happened when one of my co-stars comes in and is like, I just saw this kid running around peeing on people. I'm like, he almost peed on me.
Oh my God.
That's wild.
It's like,
what an odd thing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're going to be out there and have a thing, what would make you choose that?
I think it was the distraction so someone else could come and pickpocket.
Oh, you know what? Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm distracted by him peeing on me and freaking out. Someone could go.
Well, it is New York.
Yeah.
And I say that not, disparagingly, but like here, we don't have anybody at that level of cleverness.
Yeah.
Here, panhandling usually resorts to violence, just pure and simple. I mean, there's not like any weird shit that goes on. They've over the years become very caustic and abusive. And in the last few years, we've had a lot of things happen downtown. It never happened when I was growing up and hanging out down there.
I had a coworker come several years back. She was from New York, and she came, and I was driving her like to and from the airport and stuff, to like meetings, and because I, was the person who was around here, and we were at a gas station here, and this guy comes up to ask us for money, up to the window, and she just goes, "Call your mother."
Look, New Yorkers just don't put up with it, and that's the thing. It's like, just go away. Most of the time now, I just ignore them. Just like that's after living here for 15 years now. Tomorrow is my 15th anniversary of living here in New York City. I just realized.
Really?
Congratulations!
Well, congratulations! Yeah.
Wow. But like when I first moved here, I would wave at people all the time on the street, just talk to everybody. I'd say, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing?" That's how I'm from the South, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Dave, you got to stop doing that. You got to just you got to stop paying attention to the homeless people." It's like, I think one of those things that helped me stop paying attention to the homeless people was when I saw a guy just whip out his junk and start beating off right there in front of me, and another guy just started pumping a manhole.
Oh, okay.
Not a man's hole, but a manhole pumper in the street. And I was like, wow, okay. Yeah, I'm just going to turn a blind eye when it comes to this kind of stuff now, because I don't want to see certain things. I'm just like,
Isn't it amazing?
It's crazy how you just adapt.
The hard divisions. We were just talking about this when we recorded the other night about there's places in this country where there are cultures that exist like in their own bubble. And they are cultures we as outsiders just simply don't understand. We were talking about Winter's Bone.
Oh, yeah.
And how, not to get into the whole thing, but we were just talking about how, real quick, the director showed us this foreign environment that captivate you. Just like, okay, what's going on? Why is this working this way? Because you just don't know it. And it's no different than seeing something take place on the streets of Japan, which was another movie we talked about, R100. But see, we just came back from vacation. We went down to Georgia, take our daughter to see her grandparents. And then we went to Savannah for a little free time for a week. And, it's not like neither of us have never been there before.
Right.
But, staying there, not on business, and God knows, I don't know how long, and just kind of soaking it in, it's very different. We always joke, just south of Springfield, Illinois is the y'all line, where you go from you all to y'all. And that's when I'm entering the South. Yeah. And then there's the Middle South and then the Deep South,
Oh, yes.
And I think it's, and it's funny, because most of the successful like fish out of water stories are usually like somebody from New York who gets thrown into, somewhere in Louisiana or Alabama, in this little town. The reverse of it though, you coming from there and going to a place like New York, which is like, steel balls central.
Yeah.
I mean, New Yorkers rightfully so cling to the reputation of we're fucking New Yorkers. Yeah. No matter what happens, we will stand up and just keep going.
Yep.
But they also take no bullshit. Zero level of tolerance for this kind of shit that, and then when you bring that New York experience, someplace like Madison, Wisconsin, Midwest, not a whole lot going on. It's just so fucking funny because it seems like it's a really disproportionate reaction to a situation.
Yeah.
But the situation in New York, that's how everyone deals with it.
Yeah. It's like no one's got time for it. Everybody's in a rush to get where they're going. That's what I thought was always so interesting. It's like everybody thinks just New Yorkers are rude. It's like, no, it's not rudeness. It's just like you have to build that hard exterior, because if not, you're going to have people trying to scam you every which way you're going. There's always someone's trying to get you some money out of you or something. It's just, there's always something. And also you just got places you got to be. It's just like everybody's on the move. It's just like, And you just got to, you can't go against that flow. You can't just slowly walk down the sidewalk. You got to keep up with everybody else, or you're going to get run over. It's just like,
yeah, New York is not the place where you go to just be you, to the beat of your own drum. It's funny because this is something we've been talking about with our daughter. You need to be an individual, you need to be you, but you also need to understand there are times in this world where you need to just hoe the row with everybody else at the same pace.
Yep.
Get on the fucking train. Don't dilly-pally. Don't do all this. Get on. Grab. Get off. Don't worry about texting and that, because your shit will get run over.
Yep.
Or at
Someone
the very
will just
least,
grab your phone out of your hand too. They're like, "Yep, bye now."
Yep, go over there.
Yep. It's funny how I've realized that I'm like a combination of my Southern upbringing and also being in New York. And now I have my moments where I don't put up with bullshit anymore. I learned that valuable word called no.
Yeah.
But I bring it out, but I still have that nice Southern disposition as well at times. It just, sometimes I have to bring out the New Yorker. Sometimes I have to bring out the Alabama. It's just like, you have to find that balance there. It's like, the people that follow me on Facebook, they know how I can be sometimes. Like, sometimes people cross a certain line and I just don't put up with certain bullshit. I'm like, no, this is wrong. That's morally reprehensible and I'm not going to tolerate that. So bye. And I'm going to call you out on it. I'm not just going to be trying to, sugarcoat things and be nice to you. If you're going to, spout some, racist or prejudiced nonsense on my page, I'm going to call you out for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because living here in New York, you can't be that way.
You know what? There are times in throughout history where some section of the country, I felt like, should have stood up and taken the reins because it was like their bag. Right. And with the pervasiveness of the internet, and it's like, we thought it was this big, but now it's exponentially bigger. And tomorrow we'll find out it's even more exponentially bigger. It's just like the things that become part of it are seemingly endless. And I think this is one of those moments in American history where the New York lifestyle needs to come in and say, this is how you handle shit on the web. This is how
Put on your masks, get vaccinated, and stop with the bullshit.
Exactly. Shut that shit down.
Yeah.
Bam. Don't, there's just, because that's how I've been fortunate to kind of travel all over. So I've sampled all of the stuff and I see where, certain things work. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing is, well, that's good. I got an idea. How about we not be respectful of people's feelings when they're being, fascists? I don't care how they feel. I don't care how their mother feels about how I feel about them. We just need to shut it down.
Yeah. Shut it down now. It's like, that's what the greatest generation did back in the 40s. They shut it down.
Yeah.
They're like, nope.
Oh, so they're going to take over Europe and do this? Nah.
Nope.
Nope.
That's how I feel about it. It's like that. They were the real Antifa, those were my grandparents, it's like, they didn't put up with that kind of crap. And I'm like, it appalls me that we're having that kind of stuff happening here now. And I'm like, whoa, no, we need to shut this down now.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. I'm just like, I don't tolerate it at all on my page. I'm like, nope. Okay. You're going to start spouting that nonsense, shutting it down. I'm going to call you out on it right now. It's like, yeah. It's like, and then I'll be, oh, hey, look, this movie's coming out. Hey, I'm excited about this. So I have those two things. It's like, especially, I hate to get political in here, but like these past 4 years, or 5 years now, I guess. But it's like, I got a lot of grief from people because I was very outspoken. But I felt it was a time where I couldn't stay silent. I was like, no, I got to speak out against this. This is wrong. And it's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, I might be a quote unquote celebrity, but I think that means I need to speak out even more, knowing that I can reach a larger audience. And it's like, this is wrong. And this needs to be known that this is wrong.
Yeah.
Not going to argue.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
but I've had people argue.
Oh, I know. I know. And
I'm like, unfortunately, I've lost some fans that way, but I'm like, well, so be it. I'm not going to change. That's
kind of the thing. I mean, we have actively stopped following some people who, supported the previous regime. And, it's a double thing. It's like, one, I respect you for saying your thing, right? You're a celebrity, but understand. And like you just pointed out, you're up here. That means you can be heard and you will be heard. And that might have ramifications on either side, and it's kind of like, I respect that. However, please respect that I can't say that's okay.
Yeah.
I can't say that's okay. I can't, look at my family and think, oh yeah, they're all pieces of shit. You're right.
Yeah. Especially after what happened on the 6th of January. I'm like, no.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing that's happened to this country since the Civil War.
Yeah.
What happened that day? People say 9/11. I'm like, no, that was the worst thing that ever happened because that was an inside job.
Yeah.
That was an inside attack. That was, domestic terrorism.
Well, and it's scary. Exactly. Yeah. And it's scary because like the Civil War was political and financial ideologies not mixing. It's too many people in the kitchen wanting to be the head chef. And we get that. And it wasn't, slavery was an issue, but it wasn't the motivator for the North to get all antsy.
Right.
But either way, it showed the greatest weakness of this country's structure was it's that easily divided.
Correct.
And that was extreme.
Yeah.
Getting attacked by somebody. We've been attacked by Japan. We've been, attacked. And then, 9/11. That's somebody else coming in. It's like, oh, didn't see that coming. Well, that shows we got some holes in our defense. Doesn't say anything about us as a people. What happened at the Capitol was that same thing. God, that's how easily we can get that far apart.
That's what our founders feared from the get-go. And they tried to put provisions in to stop something like that from happening. And they just never imagined that we would have a half of the country that would be totally in support of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so scary about it. And that's what's like, no, this has got to be nipped in the bud now. That's where the New York mentality comes like, no, we got to put a stop to this now. So this never this needs to be made an example of, so this never happens again. Because this is not what our founders wanted.
No.
This is like that's been the whole thing about our democracy is that we had free and fair elections and there was a peaceful transfer of power. And that did not happen.
No. And we saw it coming.
Oh yeah.
Everyone saw it coming. This isn't gonna go either way. Whatever the votes turn out to be, it isn't going to be like it has always been. No. Even when you have somebody you just hated in office, you're glad to see him go. It was always at a level where you could be proud that that's it.
Because it was
peaceful transition of power. Something very few, countries celebrate.
Yeah.
And enjoy. But
that's what makes America so unique. That's supposed to be our strong point, and that was attacked.
Yeah.
And that what angered me so much. It angered me.
Well,
I had.
Oh, go ahead.
I had disagreements with my own father over this.
Yeah.
And that because he got tied up in all that. I'm like, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this. Because our family history, the Thornton side of my family has been here since the 1600s.
Okay.
And my great something grandfather, Colonel John Thornton, married George Washington's niece, Jane.
Wow.
Her father was Augustine, or his older brother. And so it's like, like my family has been directly tied into the founding of this nation. So I take it very personally when stuff like that happens. Like, this is my family's legacy. It was under attack. And I just couldn't believe my dad was blaming this on the wrong things and wasn't, I was like, what? This is our family. This is what I can't believe you're okay with this.
Right. You know what? And here's the thing. We've talked about a lot of the goings on recently. You can't, well, you can, but it's like you almost couldn't make a movie and have that happen and people buy into it. Right.
Right.
So many weird things. And we've talked about that. Life can sometimes be like, you couldn't put that on film. Everyone knows it happened, but if you put it on film,
it just seems too preposterous.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" When they talk,
we would never allow fascism to come to America.
Right.
Like, we fought the fascists. That's those Nazis, and we'd never allow that to happen here. I'm like, yes.
and those only ever show up in like future dystopian things, where it's like, we don't know exactly what went wrong, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say everything went to shit. And this is what happened.
Well,
and
it's like the movie Idiocracy, too. It's
that's a great movie.
Like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening.
Yeah, sure is.
It's like, I'm not taking that vaccine. It's just like, oh my God.
It is wild. I mean, I think, Art the Clown being like a real thing that exists in the world is more believable.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think, we have a deadly virus worldwide. It's been killing millions of people. And there are people saying, nah, I don't believe it. I'm not taking anything to say. I'm like, I'd rather have the virus than take that vaccine. I'm like, what the is wrong with you?
Yeah.
That's like, this is, I didn't even, like, when all this happened last year and they're like, okay, we got to go into lockdown, everybody wear masks. I didn't even think that was going to be a struggle. I thought that was when we were finally going to come together as a country and everybody's going to take care of each other. We got, because I think that's like the best form of patriotism is taking care of each other, regardless of political leanings, all that. This shouldn't have been a political issue at all.
Right.
No.
But this should have been us coming together like we did after 9/11, coming together as a society to heal as a nation and protect each other. Mm-hmm. That's what this is. Wearing the mask, social distancing, getting the vaccine is protecting not just yourself, but every single person that you come in contact with. And it's like, to see that this is divisive, I'm like, what?
It could have been out of solidarity, some fear, because it's a scary thing. But, I know our generation is the only one that's going to know what it's like to walk outside in America, to walk outside at any time, day or night, and not hear a single plane in the sky anywhere for days and days. And, everything was shut down, and it was this solidarity because it was fear. People understood we love baseball, but we can't go to baseball. I'm not a sports fan, so I didn't give a crap. But, the things that people
but the arts
love,
were shut down.
The arts were shut down, everything, because they're like, you know what? If we get more than 5 people in a room, someone might drop a fucking plane on it.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. And it happened just fine. Same as you. I thought, this is going to be no big deal. I had no idea.
I had no idea.
Well, I mean,
over something so simple too. It's just a mask. It's a small little mask that you just wear, a piece of cloth you wear over your face just for upwards of 30 minutes, maybe, when you're going into a store or something like that. This is like, come on. This is the smallest thing you can do.
The big difference between that point in time and, early 2020, when this all, kind of started, is that the governments in those eras were completely different. I think in 2020, no one in the government could agree on anything. And then people were like, okay, I guess it's fine for us, for us to.
That's exactly it. You can say what you want about Bush. You can say what you want about any president before or after. Yeah. That situation.
But they listened to the experts.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did their job.
Yeah.
Is really what they did, and credit to, GW. He stepped up and he got in front of the nation and said, I'm scared too. And I've got this. For you, I've got this.
Yeah.
What we had was, that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Give me some water.
Yeah. And then he gets it and then still doesn't, tell people when he gets the vaccine. I'm like, my God, it's like you almost died. You're still trying to play it off like it's nothing big. And then it's like, you have a moment here to really, he could have turned the election around for himself.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Bush with 9/11.
Yeah.
He was his popularity was nosediving before 9/11, but he brought everybody together. And actually, when all this happened last year, I was like, oh, this is going to be his 9/11. He's going to be able to turn this around for himself. But he did the exact opposite.
And 3 days in, nope. This is like Airplane. Only, Leslie Nielsen was way better at it.
Yeah. That was intentional comedy.
Oh man.
Well,
I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. And I'm like, this is why we are where we are right now. And it's just so irresponsible. It's just, and it seems now finally that people are finally starting to get it. Like, because it's that base now has started to really get affected because they're the only ones getting it now because everybody else is vaccinated. They're like, oh, wow, this is actually real.
Yeah.
It's starting to sink in. I'm like, uh-huh.
Well, how was that for Terrifier 2?
It was hard. It was very hard for us because we were almost done filming. And we were upstate New York when all the lockdowns first, they're like, okay, we're shutting the state down. So we're like, oh, we got to stop filming. So we came back. And I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere, New York, in the middle of, like I said, Amish country. And come back to the city was the most disturbing thing. It's like I live on one of the busiest streets in Queens, and it was a ghost town. I've never seen that like here. And it's like, whoa! I'm where all the bars and the clubs and everything are, and it's like dead silent. I'm like,
creepy,
and it was very creepy. It is like this is strange. But, it's like we weren't able to finish the movie for a while. And that's what sucked because we're so close. We had like 2 more kill scenes to do and some pickups to do. But we kind of turned that around and, they use that to our advantage. Like Damien's like, well, you know what? This gives me more time to flesh out these kill scenes because they're the kill that begins the movie and then the big set piece kill that happens halfway through that, we think is going to rival the hacksaw scene. And we're like, okay, well, because we started actually filming that scene right before the pandemic, and we decided to scrap what we had originally filmed, which would have been satisfactory. It would have been great what we originally planned, but we had time. Damien had time to make more prosthetics.
Oh yeah,
I suppose.
So this scene that was really going to take maybe a day or 2 to film ended up taking 5 days to film because there's just so much more we added to it.
Okay.
It's just insane. It's all the practical effects that we just added into this thing. We're like, well, we got the time. We don't have a studio over us saying you can't do this. Let's just swing for the fences and just throw everything we have into this. Let's just do it. Let's make this kill just crazy. And we did. So in a weird way, the pandemic, I think, was a boon to us because it gave us the chance to really step back and reassess and like, hey, we can actually make this better. We have the time. Let's do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because I love that outlook on it too.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've heard a lot where it's shut down and some have not started up. Some were eagerly awaiting and just picked up where they left off. And I like that.
Yeah. We were very lucky.
Use that time to grow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we're in this very nebulous period now. Like we're wondering, the school district's plan here is for everyone to go back to school with masks and, stuff, but it's going to be all in person. I don't know, last couple of days, I'm looking at the news and we're like, we might be having her at home again.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to go off. So, and I know people all creatives are just going apeshit because it's like, finally, we're free.
Yes.
And, now those clouds are forming again. And, I know everyone has to be thinking, oh, fuck, I hope like September 17th isn't the day they go, we're done. Back to the way it was, quarantine.
It's going to be worse if that happens because there's going to be, I think there'll be riots. And it's not going to be necessarily the people you expect to be right. It's all of us that have done the right thing for over a year and a half and have sacrificed our lives for a year and a half, our careers, everything, trying to do the right thing to take care of everybody. And I think we're just going to be like, you know what? Fuck you.
Fuck them.
Fuck you. We're not losing because that's how I feel about it. I started doing conventions again. And I'm like, I lost a whole entire year of income just on conventions alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. See, and that's why we've been very sympathetic. People are like, initially like, oh, the big Hollywood people can't make movies for a year. Okay, well, you're talking about the De Niros and the Pacinos who have, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in residuals coming in.
We're talking about the crew members.
And, we're talking about like the writers. Like there isn't a single fucking writer at any level in Hollywood who has got it made. They can be unemployed in a fucking heartbeat. Doesn't matter how long you've been on that show, how many movie scripts you've written. These
and all our indie friends.
And all the indie people and the crew people. The union guys. Union can only work when there's something to be a union about.
Exactly.
Right. And that's why we've always we constantly push people like with Tubi, Tubi has been a godsend. Yeah. And we talked to Hilton Ariel Ruiz. Too many names. Ruiz, who did Zombie with a Shotgun, told us that Tubi, because he's dealt with all this distribution stuff. And he said Tubi is like the most artist friendly streamer all around. So, we're like, go see this, go see that. And if it's not free on Prime, just pay the $1.99. Shit, help. If you want to help people, these are people whose income is zero. There's no residuals. There's literally like a nickel for every rental, on Amazon Prime that is flowing into a pocket. Well, that doesn't add up quick these days. You guys live off of so much more than just the film, because the film usually doesn't pay shit in most indie. Everyone's,
no.
I mean,
no.
No.
Everyone's in it for the work, and then hopefully that work will get you conventions and things, and where you get a cut of this and a cut of that, and you can do your thing, and that's what enables you to be the best creative you can.
Exactly.
And do more things.
And it's the creative. People forget also it's all of us creatives that kept people sane for this past year.
We have talked about that so many times. It's like, you know what?
What did people do while they were shut in their homes? They were binging Netflix.
And the problem is
making all those movies.
the problem
all
is
of these people.
Our audience. We see this. You're going to be heard by like 7 people. So we picked the smallest niche, because it's for new creatives. So, and we have some like general audience people who we know listen, but, all of our rating is really just like yelling at the choir. So they already know they're the ones who need the money. Why are we yelling at them to spend it?
Give me money.
But, so given this period of renaissance that we have right now, what if you were to say something to somebody who's looking at any part of it, like acting, producing, writing, getting in on this or doing their own thing, based on your experience, what is one or some things that you would tell that person to take with them as they're walking into this world?
Well, the first thing I would say is like it makes me. I think of like what has actually happened during this pandemic. You've had a lot of creatives that have gotten creative, and even though the jobs weren't there per se, they've still found ways to make their own work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did a movie during the pandemic, during like the heart of the pandemic last year, called Dark Offerings. It's going to finally be released this year. And we filmed it exclusively over Zoom.
Okay.
No one was in a room together. We were doing this during quarantine, and we made our own horror film that way. And it's like it's an independent film, of course, but it's because everybody's like, I still want to do something. Like, let's create something, and that's what we did. And I think that's what's been amazing during this is that you've seen so much creativity come out of this when people were just sitting in their own homes and doing their own thing. It's like, I'm even though you're not on the Broadway stage, you still saw Broadway performers getting together and doing concerts over Zoom.
Yeah.
It's like people still found ways to perform in their own, like TikTok, all that kind of, people found, that's what's so amazing with technology right now. There are ways to do that. People found ways to still create content in a meaningful way and to get it out there. So I would say definitely, if you're not finding the work make your own. That's what Damien did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Terrifier came to be. He was tired of seeing crappy horror films, horrible slashers. He's like, well, dang it. Why don't I just make my own? And that's what he did. It's like we didn't have a studio system behind us putting all this money. And I was like, well, screw it. We'll just do it ourselves. We'll raise the capital. We'll have the fans come in and help us out, and we'll make it ourselves. So sometimes you just have to make it yourself. And I think that's sometimes how you get some of the best work, because it's like there's heart behind it.
Right.
It's not just mass produced by some studio system that's just like, oh, well, let's crank out another sequel to this, or let's remake this, or let's reboot this because we know people pay to see this. And it just doesn't have the same heart as something people actually created. And like this movie that came out earlier this year called Psycho Goreman. I freaking loved it. It was just like,
we're waiting to see it.
That's on my list.
It was so much fun. It's like that. And I love seeing those kind of films because you could tell the heart was put into it. You could tell they were having fun making it. They weren't just doing it just to, make money. They were doing it because they had a great idea and they wanted to do something with it. That's what I would say. It's like, create your own content and persevere. That's the second thing I want to say, just persevere. I don't know how many times I have been told no over the times I've been told yes. I would say probably for every one yes, I had 100 no's. But it's just like, it just takes that one yes to change everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, just keep on. It took me 13 years until, Terrifier really took off for me. It just took years and years and years of just pounding the pavement and getting out there, and sometimes creating my own work and that would beget other work. It's like everything leads to something else. So sometimes you have to take the smaller jobs, take the off Broadway shows, because you never know who might be in that audience.
Mm-hmm.
And like, hey, I want to cast you in this thing or this. And I know they could use you for this or this. Make those connections and just persevere. If this is something you love to do, keep at it.
Yeah. I have so many things trying to come out of my mouth right now. Well, first of all,
good one.
All right, Art. Excuse me. So Star Trek 5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, not the greatest film, but
hello, computer.
To touch, that was 4.
Oh, that's right. That was 4. Yeah.
5 was the catastrophic failure that Shatner directed, because he directed all the odd number ones and they all tanked for some reason. But anyway,
coincidence.
Even though it wasn't the greatest film, what you said about not knowing who's in the audience. So the actor who played Cybok, Larry Luckenbill, is a Canadian actor, First Peoples origins, and just really tearing it up there. Zero presence in Hollywood, not known by anybody. Shatner, being Canadian, was home visiting, went to a play, saw him play a moderately small part in the play, and then nabbed him to play Cybok in the movie.
There you go.
And
just never know.
And those are the things that we all live for. But we also remind people that if you're listening to this show and you're a creative, you're a mental defective like the rest of us. Because we've said this, listeners know what's coming. Listeners know
there's something wrong with all of us.
There's something wrong with all of us, because we're endeavoring to get into a career as a full-time thing where there is not only no guaranteed paycheck, but often just no paycheck. And it's wrought with refusals, people telling you no and shitting on your work, cutting you down. It's rejection. It's despondent. It's something if you have any compassion in your heart, you wouldn't fucking wish on your worst enemy, yet we're all striving to live that life. Because that is what being a creative is.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Yeah. It all pays off when you get the job. It's just like, because you're able to finally get it out there to people. You're able to perform for people, or
right,
or your performance will be seen by people. Like what you created will be seen by other people.
Yes.
It's like, there we go. There's the payoff.
Yeah.
And I've always said, if you're in it for just the paycheck, you're in it for the wrong reason.
That's what we've
said. If you're in it for the fame, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yep.
You're in this when you can't not do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I've taken even after Terrifier came out, I've had jobs come up and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. It just doesn't pay much. And my agent's like, God, you got to stop taking these things that pay next to nothing. I'm like, but this is one of my friends and I want to help them out. It's like, and plus it just sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Well,
work is work.
It's connecting strands of the web.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that big web that all of us together are creating. And, you know, it's that same thing. You don't know who's in the audience. You don't know where that strand, when it connects, what is it also connecting to?
Exactly.
You know, we started this podcast because it was something we just wanted to do.
We wanted to talk about indie movies.
We want to talk about indie movies. We started a small production company, and really it's just kind of like a, you know, let's to attach all of our stuff to, and let's have something that's active. So let's make a podcast. And, we're not making any money.
No.
So we're true creatives.
Yeah. I hear you.
But the number of people we've been able to talk to that, I mean, we live in Madison, Wisconsin. We have no connection to anything remotely mistaken for entertainment business. Right. But we get to talk to you. We've got to talk to, you know, David and Liam in Scotland. We've got to talk to, you know, Hilton and Kyle Hester.
Ryan Kruger,
Alex Cox. You know, we saw Wolf Cop, and then bam, Lowell Dean's on the show. You know, it's been thrilling. And we try to use that as an example to people. You know, we're like, we're not bragging. We're just saying, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But you'll never know if you don't keep doing that New Yorker thing, push through the bullshit.
Yep.
Your movie sucks. All right, well, fuck you. I'm still going to make it. You know, your last movie was shit. Yeah. Well, go eat your own. I'm making another one.
Yep.
Just cut through it. Keep pushing, you know, because I mean, for us, the reward, you know, finishing a script, laboring over a script is like, there's nothing. This is the best high ever.
I'm like, I've had so many people just tell me, oh, you should write a script. I'm like, I can't, that's just not how my brain works. I'm always just amazed with people that can just create all of that like, it's like writers have always, I think writers are some of the most amazing people that they can create a whole entire universe, a whole entire world, and like, you know, write dialogue for different people and situations, stories. I love that.
We marvel at people like you who can take what words come out of our fingers and turn it into Art the fucking Clown.
Yeah.
You know, or like Damien, who has the concept. Here's words and paper, and I've got people, you know, doing my thing, and we're sitting down going, Jesus Christ, this is way different than tab, type, enter, tab, type, enter. This is holy shit. He put this together with music and did all the editing, and oh man.
That's what's so cool about it all. Yeah. It's like all these people that have their own skill sets come together and create something so awesome. It's just like every single person is important, down to the PA on set is important. Yes. Everybody is important. It's not. It's always the actors or sometimes the directors that get the most recognition, but every single person on that set is important.
That's what we say, you know, and we want, you know, people to reach out to us, not just if they're a filmmaker, but if you work on a set, man, if you're a gaffer, give us a call, because none of that shit happens without you.
Oh, and you know, they've got like the crew members, they see everything. They've got to have some of the craziest stories.
Absolutely.
The hot gossip.
Oh my God. It's just like, oh my God. I know our crew members have got all kinds of stories. They could shit all over me if they wanted to.
I don't think they would.
I mean, I think it was like, especially with Terrifier 2, we became such a family on that shoot. We had this one location we filmed in, and it was just so miserable to film it. And we're filming there for like 20 plus hours a day after day after day. We're tired. We're cold. We're hungry. We're cranky. And I think every single person, that place was haunted too. And I think that affected us. And I think every single person on set had one day where they just had a breakdown at one point where it's like, okay. And that's how it was. Like, okay, someone such and such and so-and-so had their breakdown today. Oh, well. And the next, later, we're like, I'm so sorry. They're like, it's okay. We all have those. And that's how family is. It's like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you were a little bit of a dick earlier. It's okay. We all had our moments.
Yeah.
I admitted I had like 1 or 2 days on set where I was like, because I discovered actually last year that I'm on the spectrum, and that makes more sense. Where I get freaked out over not sticking to a schedule.
Okay.
And I was like, and so like, and when I know that we have to get through this, and this, and I'm like, oh my God, we're so far behind right now, and I start to freak out. I start to panic. I'm like, oh God, and I get cranky. Like, but oh my God, we got this big, huge thing to do. And I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to get this done? And I'm like, I know it's not my job to worry about that. Right. But I'm just like, I take it on myself, and I get worked up over it. Then I see other people that are, miserable, and that I'm an empath. And so that affects me too. And I'm like, oh, but this person's really cold right now. Can't we do something for this person? And I'm like, I was like, oh God, I gotta, like, Dave, just calm down. Okay. Have a cookie. Okay, I'll have a cookie.
And cookies make everything better. I think, that's why we do a lot, because we've worked on some short films and stuff, and that energy of being on set with everyone, like, that's something you can't match or recreate in any other anything.
No, it's not even like being a sculptor and then going to like a studio surrounded by like 50 other sculptors. Because everyone's working on their own thing, Right. It's like, I don't know, it's like a communal birth. Mm-hmm. On set. Everything that you do is contributing towards this creation that will be birthed to the world at some point, and there's no part too big or small. Like you were saying, the crew, man, without them, it doesn't happen. You just got a guy.
They work harder than the actors, I think. Yeah, it's just like, because we sit there and just wait for them to set everything up. So that whole entire time they're working. And then when we're working, they're still working. So they are working. I'm like, they're the unsung heroes. Like, you wouldn't see us, you wouldn't hear us if it weren't for the crew. We wouldn't have these amazing sets if it weren't for the crew. We wouldn't have these amazing special effects if it weren't for the crew.
Was it Kyle in the movie The Chair? I think it was Kyle Hester was talking to us about the movie he was in with Rowdy Roddy Piper, The Chair, and how he was a producer on that. Mm-hmm. And they were wanting to start filming, and the crew was bang, 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 bang. And the director got pissed. It was like, knock that shit off. And the guy from the crew came up and said, if you want to get through the rest of the fucking day, let us finish. Because they were right in the middle of something at a place they couldn't stop. And Kyle said, the director was pissed, but then he's like, no. Yeah, set me straight. Got it.
Yep.
All right. Everyone take 5. Let them finish so later we can go do shit over there. And I love that. That's where just that kind of stuff comes together.
Yeah. Because that's things, even as an actor, I have to realize sometimes, like, there's a reason I'm sitting here for 8 hours waiting to go on set, because they're still setting everything up, because this is the set is very specific. The lighting has to be right. They got to get all the practical effects and all that kind of stuff just right. And it sometimes takes a while. There's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
And I had to get used to that, because I'm so used to being on stage and just constantly going through the whole entire shoot. It's like when they say action, go, and then the play's on, and you go through the whole entire thing, and then you take your bow, and then boom, you're done. It's like, no, this is like, you film for like maybe a minute, then they gotta reset everything for 45 minutes. You're like, oh God. It's funny when I see movies now and I see like a big, huge scene happen, a bunch of destruction in the environment and everything. I'm like, oh shit, they got to set all that back up again to do that again, don't they? How many times do they have to reset that set? Oh God, that must have been a pain.
It's so funny doing this. It changes the way that you watch movies.
It does.
Absolutely.
It does.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's wild.
So B-siders, that is why you gotta embrace the madness. Gotta just, turn your ear. And one thing we've always said is when somebody gives you a note, even if they're kind of an asshole about it, take it with a grain of salt. At least give it a look and a consideration. But if you decide, nope, doesn't fit what my whole thing is, go ahead and dismiss it. You can't say no to all your notes. Because like you said, and that approach I think was, and that's what we look for people. If you're going to give notes to somebody about something, don't go and say, Jesus Christ, that was terrible, man. What are you thinking? Because you right away, you just ball kicked them an uppercut, I see what you're doing, but here's how you can make it better. I think that is the way to get through to people and to get results. And then, when you're looking for notes, look for someone who talks to you like that. Like, this is good. This is good. I had a question about this. I had a thought about this piece, this scene or this dialogue or something. Listen to them. And especially these days, we're not like Ed Wood, right? Pounding out shit on a typewriter, right? Just highlight the fucking thing. Or if you, by like Final Draft and stuff that, like we used, just do the fucking alt text, put it in, see how it rolls. Yeah. You either like it or you won't.
Yeah.
And you can change it back. It costs you nothing. And it can make the, set of eyes and ears other than your own can make a world of difference in a great script being a fantastic script.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to put that ego aside.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And sometimes you have to just roll with the punches too, because sometimes stuff will happen and you have no control and you just have to adapt. We had that happen, short story on Terrifier 2, where it's a scene, it's not really spoiling much, but I was supposed to crash through a window and attack someone. And they're putting the window in for me to crash through, and it breaks. And we don't have another window. We're like, oh, God, no. And like Damien and I just sit there and like we put our heads together and we came up with this whole entire scene that was not in the script that I think is brilliant. You've never seen this happen before in a horror film. And it's like, this is a happy accident. This actually lent itself to something that was kind of cliche into something that's never been done before. And it's like, those are those moments where it's like, well, crap, this happened. Okay, we'll deal with it. But maybe we can turn this into something else.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite moments that we had on set. It was a day I was so tired too, because I didn't get any sleep the night before. And I was just like, but it was just like, this brilliant moment came out of it. I'm like, this is fantastic.
Awesome.
I can't wait for this movie.
I can't wait either. It kills me that I can't tell you the moment because I can't wait till I can talk about it. It's like, yeah, this is what we did.
So offline, you're going to have to help us get a hold of Damien because I want to have a little conversation with him. See, of course, if we can get him on the show, but I'm also interested in seeing a screener when it's ready.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we would be happy to do an episode because we've had on screeners, we don't do the full dissection.
No.
We don't give away the end.
We don't spoil.
And we also wait until it's either debuted at festivals, but before the big release, we throw something out. Because I'm just a baby. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. I'm so freaking excited, and it's a beast of a film too. It's right now the rough cut of it is clocking at almost like 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Which is unheard of for a slasher film, but we're like, and we're like, wow, this is long. And we're like, well, what can we cut? And we're like, really can't cut anything because everything impacts something else. Everything's connected. And it's just like, if we cut this and we have to cut this, we're going to have to cut this. And like, we can't do that. It's like, but we really, when I sat there and thought, I was like, well, you know what? We're at a time where people are used to sitting through Snyder Cut.
I was just going to say, as you say, it's 2.5 hours and it's unprecedented. Just remember, Zack Snyder's in his office fucking laughing at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it?
That it? Yeah. It's just like you had Midsummer, which is about that same length, if not longer. But it's like we're not full of lulls in it. It is constant. It's like the anti-Midsummer, where Midsummer was a long lull, and then you had something big happen. Another long lull, another big. This is the opposite. We have big, little bit of a lull, so the audience can catch its breath. Okay, another crazy scene, another little bit of a lull. Another crazy, it just boom, boom. It's a roller coaster. It just woof. I think the longest lull in the movie is like 7 minutes, and it's there for a reason, so they can really catch their breath, because right after that, it's just nonstop, just boom, 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 boom for the last third of the movie. And it's just like, oh my God.
I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you can watch a 2.5 hour movie and it doesn't feel like a long movie.
Right.
Or you can watch a 2.5 hour movie, make it 30 minutes in, and feel like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Or you can even watch an hour and a half movie and go, oh my God, this is going
to. Yeah.
Purgatory. God damn.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
It's an important thing is, regardless of the length, you're entertaining your audience and keeping them engaged. Yeah. That's the important thing.
That's it. And, and we tell people, make your stuff, right? Just make it. And, not myself, I've spoken out about how long movies are getting, because 4 hours, to me, that's just bad writing.
Come on.
As a writer, and, I never went to college for it. I've just been doing this since I was like 6.
Yeah.
And, but you read things, you listen to people who have made it, and, novel writing, script writing, and everything. It's all about, economy of words. And, this is the scope. You can't tell your story in this scope, then you're fucking doing something wrong. And if you want to make it a little bit bigger, okay. But if you're needing this to get your point across, then you're either just talking a lot of bullshit, or you're way the hell off course, Right. And I've seen Justice League, not the long cut, but when it hit theaters, and I was like, I don't think anything could make this better, because it should be walked out back Old Yeller style. And done. And then come to find out, they gave him money. He's going to make it 4 hours long. Like, he's the devil. He's like, I've got you hooked in. 4 hours. Oh my God. That's half a work day.
I think
for the day jobbers.
A whole other episode of this, just talking about what's been going on with like DC films.
Oh yeah. I know.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Up so much of it.
Oh, it's okay. I had fun chatting with you guys.
Well, we've had a blast, and our all 7 of our listeners are gonna love this, because it's another icon.
Lucky number 7.
It's just all kinds of stuff that they can take forward. So,
but even those 7 people, if it's just 7 people, that's 7 people that, are being introduced to something new, maybe, or, might inspire those 7 people to do something really cool. And that might lead to something else. You never know.
And to be fair, it's a little more than that. We actually have people in different countries who tune in. Like one guy from the UK reached out to us just to let us know that he subscribed.
That's wonderful.
And he listens every week, and he has nothing to do with film or writing or anything. So I'm like, I'll take it.
That's amazing.
I'll take it.
Fantastic.
Buy a water bottle.
Yeah.
Or a shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
David, where should people go to check out your stuff? Do you have a website, or do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram under David Howard Thornton, and I have a Cameo page as well. I did a lot of that, especially during the pandemic.
Okay.
Since I wasn't at a convention, so I can, wish happy birthday and all that kind of. I just recorded 2 of those today, and it's just a lot of fun. I try not to charge nearly as much as most people. I charge like $50. That's basically what I charge the convention for a combo. So it's like, I don't want people going broke just to get, a 3-minute message from me. I think that's absurd to charge too much for something like that. It's just like,
cool.
So that's what I have that going on. Also, I'm working on, Terrifier 2's, of course, coming out. I'm working on this other film, Stream, right now with some of the Terrifier 2 team. Damien's doing the practical effects on it. So, the kills are going to be really cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
There are a lot of horror alumni in this movie as well. A lot of horror legends. I can only reveal like a few because they've revealed them, like Jeffrey Combs.
Ooh.
Which is amazing to be able to watch him work on a set. I was like, this is like a master's course in character acting.
Wow.
So I'm very excited. There's so many more. I'm like, I feel like a kid in the candy store on this set. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm even just sharing space with these actors.
Nice.
So
that's very exciting.
It's something we hope is going to become another franchise as well. So
excellent.
It's a fun idea.
Well, we're gonna have to keep in touch because we got other stuff going on. We're happy to get like all up in it and talk about it. Listeners, we'll have links to all this, and we'll talk a little bit offline. Anything else?
Cool.
So like usual, there'll be a ton of links. Go check them out. Rent or watch on Tubi Terrifier, and look for Art the Clown action figure, folks. Got to do that. But check out David's stuff and see it. Support the people, support him, and let's just keep this rolling. So, David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown, and so much more. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
So that was an awesome interview.
It was.
It was a lot of fun talking to him.
A lot of talking going on, and not all about movies.
No,
but that's conversation. Sometimes you get into stuff, and it was nice because I feel like all of us have this shit we need to get off our shoulders, off our chest, off our head, and it was nice. It was nice, especially because see eye to eye.
Well, that's the other thing, without getting like too far into it, there are a lot of posts and stuff, and I get so furious.
Yeah. I mean, that's we could do a whole different podcast that would last for a decade on just the aches of the last 5 years, up to and through COVID and the last craziness. But anyway, one thing I hope everyone takes away from this is the bit where we talked about how Damien let him just roll with it.
Yeah. And then put into the next script. Well, art plays.
Yeah. And was very honest with, David going up and saying, well, what do you want me to do here? Man, I don't have any fucking idea. I don't even know what this scene's about. I love that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it shows that making a movie, you got to write a script. You got to have something to work with. But Ryan Kruger had 3 pages of notes, right? And ran with it. And look at the fucking monster that was unleashed because of that,
Well, that's the thing, is putting that kind of thing into your work shows something that we didn't touch on directly, but it shows something that I think is very important to the filmmaking process, which is trusting.
That's exactly it.
You work with.
You have to have that relationship where you can trust, everyone, directors and stuff, and the writers need to trust that the actor may have something valid to bring to this that wasn't thought of. How hard is it? And we've talked about it. I mean, time is the issue. You can't do 50 takes. Indie film just doesn't have that. Nobody can show up for that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Right. But you have a few moments. I mean, you can take an extra 5 minutes and just be like, all right, let's do your thing. Let's see. At least give it a shot, because you may have something really good. And if not, that's the other thing. It goes both ways. You have to trust that people have something to bring, and then everyone has to be able to hear, no, I don't think that works.
Well, I mean, it seems like I don't know. It seems like it's maybe not directly related to filmmaking, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
When you are building a team, when you are collaborating with people, building that relationship of trust is so, so important.
Yes, very, very much so. Being open to creativity is hugely important in the success of anyone's career.
Yeah. Well, with that.
Yes.
Check out all of the links in our show notes. They will direct you to cool things.
Yes. All of the stuff for David and whatever else we get in there.
Yeah.
Check it all out. Look for David on Instagram. Look for Damien on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a few, and Instagram. He's got a few things popping up from Terrifier 2.
Sure.
And they're in that post-production process now, so it's going to be a little while.
Yeah.
It's hard stuff.
Keep on it.
Yeah, just get your feels all up on it.
Yeah.
And also
check out our website.
www.lordsofmisruleproductions.com.
You can find everything there. We don't need to go through the whole list, but,
It's all there. And, we do say there's email links there. Reach out to us if you want. When you're checking us out on social media, look at people that we're following and are following us. We keep saying this. Check them out because that's how you grow your tree. Find the people that we're following. Check them out. Check out some of the people that they're following. You never know. Might even come full circle.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, until next week.
Keep creating. Keep collaborating.
Yeah. And be cool.
Yeah. Just generally be cool.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Be a cool person.
Yeah.
All right. This is Danny.
And this is Jim.
Bye.
Bye.